This is part 2 of my video about foster to adopt scheme in the UK. I've had to do it as a two-parter, and I hadn't realised it at the time because I didn't know that YouTube don't allow me to upload videos that are longer than 15 minutes, so I've had to do it in two parts. And there was a natural break in there here because my phone for some reason just turned the video off, so there we are. Sorry that kind of the ending of the last one and the beginning of this one doesn't flow very well, but hopefully you get the general gist. Sorry, cut me off there. They're going to have had the least amount of moves and the least amount of trauma, and that will be the best thing for them. And anyway, so I was like, look, we'll look into it. We did you have to do an extra half a day's training, so we did that. And then they said, we've got another family who've got a birth child and who've done this route, because I wasn't really sure about that. I thought, how is this going to work? If the child comes to us and then has to go back to their birth family, that would be awful for us, but awful for our children as well. They're so, young themselves. So we went and saw this other family, and I was already like, I'm not doing this. And this family turned up, and bless them, they were really struggling, and the mum in particular was just really struggling. They'd got a newborn and a young child, and they had to take this newborn to contact twice a week, and she had her child there, and it was just really difficult for her, and they really struggled. And we got in the car, and I was like, absolutely not, no way are we doing this. But then Josh really pushed it, and he was right to. And then they said to us, look, we've got no one in the system at the moment for our county council who is doing the foster to adopt route. So we've potentially, if a baby comes up to do the foster adopt route, we've got no one to take them. And then it's almost like such a missed opportunity. So anyway, eventually I said yes. Then we went to panel, got approved, and they said, yes, you can do it. Now, the day of panel, so panel was at 12 o'clock or something at lunchtime. And the morning of, my social worker rang me and was like, there is a baby. Mum has gone to hospital now. She thinks she's in labour. I went over the camera, sorry. It's just if that baby is born, today or tomorrow, you could literally have that baby tomorrow. So you might go to panel today, get approved, and then have a baby tomorrow, crazy. My work was really good about it because obviously as soon as that baby's here, I'm on maternity leave, or it's adoption leave, but it's the same thing really. And they were amazing because they had no idea when it would be, just like us. They did question our two children about, what they thought about it. And I think for them, actually, it's more of a natural route. They know family and friends who have had siblings who are born and they're little babies, aren't they? They're not, oh, we've suddenly got a toddler. They're little babies. And so I think for them, it was quite a more natural route. Hope actually drew a picture of us four with a little baby, and the panel loved that. It was hilarious. So I actually think from that point of view, the introduction was much easier for our own birth children to have a baby come to the house. And just like if you're pregnant, you're like, oh, I don't know when the baby's going to be born. Could be today, could be next week. I don't know, but at some point we're going to have a baby. Anyway, we had the phone call to say that the baby has been born yesterday. It's going to go to court. If the judge says they're going to be go into a foster placement, can you come and pick them up? Now, before this, they say to you, social services say to you, do not buy anything. Do not buy bottles, a car seat, nappies, anything, because you get your hopes up, obviously, and actually you don't really know what age you're going to get. But I've had two children, so I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to get these things anyway. I feel this is sensible. And thank goodness I did, because literally I got the call in 2 days before. Was it day before? I don't know. Anyway, then I went to court, and then I got the call 12 o'clock from court saying, yeah, it's been approved. You can come pick them up. So thank goodness, because they don't let you out of hospital without car seat. So I'd got all of that. And quite funny, we turned up, so it was us, me and Josh, and then 3 other social workers, and we went to see her, and they held her. The social workers held her before us. I was like, excuse me. Anyway, and then they went, oh, she's done a poo. Here you are. And that was my first hold. I was like, brilliant. And thank goodness that I had changed lots of nappies before, because that was quite daunting, actually, changing a nappy in front of a room full of nurses and social workers. But there we are. So, so we brought her home. Now, the thing that they said to us at the time was, in all the training, was, you will not fall in love with this child straight away. That you will not have that feeling of love like you might have done for your birth children. You won't feel that because it hasn't been built up. You know, like when you're pregnant, it kind of builds up, and that they said, like, you just won't have that, and that's okay. Like, it should hopefully grow. Well, for me, the complete opposite. Like, I literally laid eyes on her and I was like, oh no, I love her. And I was like, what am I going to do now? Because in my mind, she's very likely to be taken away. I say taken away. You're there because you're a foster parent. Like, your class is like a worker, essentially, which is strange because obviously we went in to adopt. We didn't go into foster. We wanted to adopt, which is like it's different. And so, but they treat you as a worker. Like, you're not allowed to know a lot of information about that baby. We hardly knew any information about, you know, her family history, why she's in foster care, and like, you have to treat it like a job. So, like, you're not allowed to say, oh, come to mummy, or refer to yourself as mummy or daddy, or anything like that. Yeah, it is like is meant to be a job. Like, with the baby, when we picked her up, we also got given a briefcase of paperwork. And I was like, I'm not going to ever have time to read this. I've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a newborn. Like, I'm not going to read a briefcase full of information. You have to keep records of, like, everything, like how much, when she's eaten, how much she's eaten, when she sleeps, poos, etc., etc. But yes, that was strange that they treat it like a job, and then they come and check in on you, like, quite a bit. But it was odd. And for me, I was like, oh, she is mine. No, I wasn't allowed to say that to them, obviously, because that's not right. But yeah, as I say, because we went in to adopt and not as a job to foster, that was really hard. So she came home, and then we had to do contact. So twice a week, I had to take her to contact. And like, when Josh went back to work after his paternity leave, like, I had to take Sam with me, because when on the days that he wasn't at nursery, he had to come with me. And that was really hard because, as I say, I didn't know a lot of information about her, why she's in care. And so I go in, I see these parents there, and I'm thinking, well, you look all right to me. Like, I have no idea. You hear these things about social services making mistakes. That was really difficult. And yeah, that was really hard. Actually, like, so thank goodness, so Josh was off for like 3 weeks paternity leave. So the first 2 weeks I just went and did it on my own. Didn't have the kids with me, like my kids with me. And I walked around for like 2 hours, waiting to pick her up. And I can only describe the feeling as the same feeling I had when my mum passed away. It was like grief. Like, I was so sad. Like, I couldn't stop crying. I'm just like walking around, like, oh, just the streets on my own. It was just absolutely horrible. Because I just thought, they seem absolutely fine. Like, they're just like, this isn't going to work. She's going to go back to them, which is obviously great for her. But awful. I was like, I feel like she's my baby and you're just going to take her from me. And there was like 2 weeks where I just cried every day because I was like, this is horrendous. But as time went on, like, dribs and drabs of information come in, and then it became apparent that, like, it was very likely that she'd be adopted. And then the actual adoption order took a really long time to go through, like 3 times the amount of time it should normally take. As I said, by that time, I was pretty certain that we were going to be able to keep her. Yeah, the children took to her really well. If anything, it was better. So I didn't have to recover. You know, I hadn't given birth, wasn't breastfeeding, wasn't, you know, hormonal, all that kind of thing. So I was basically just like normal me, but with a newborn. So, you know, if my kids, if they needed help with something, I could just easily get off the sofa and do it. Whereas when I had my second, I couldn't. I was like, I'm kind of stuck on the sofa because I've got stitches and I'm bleeding and I'm leaking milk and I'm hormonal. And so in that point, it was just so much easier. I was just like normal mum, but also had a newborn. Obviously, then get a little bit more sleep deprived. But yes, I think like thank goodness that we got to keep her, because I have no experience of the opposite. And I don't know how that would have affected the children, but I really think that the foster to adopt route for our children was the best thing. And for our youngest, she is 5 now, and she has challenging behaviour sometimes, and I'm sure that's because of her trauma. If you don't know much about kind of in utero trauma, it is such a thing. Even though, you know, people are like, but she was basically just with you. She knows things. Anyway, that's a side point. Go and research that if you really want to. She has had trauma from that, but actually she has had the least amount of trauma that she could have had, because she had one separation and not the standard route, which would be removed from parents to a foster home and moved from foster home to adoptive home. And it's been amazing, and I think she would have really struggled with any more upheaval. And the difficulty is that she had to go to contact. I guess that was, you know, that's difficult for them because they see their birth parents and they have like those connections with them, and then she has to be removed from them repeatedly, essentially. And that's you know, I'm sure that has really affected her, and that was really hard. But on a positive look, from my point of view, I got to meet the parents quite a bit. You know, like I met them every week, and that was a real lovely thing to be able to do, because I think otherwise you just read about them on a piece of paper and you don't really know. But I got to see what they were like, and that was such a privilege for me to get to know them. And now if she wants to know them when she's older, it's not going to be such an issue, because I'll be like, oh hi, do you remember me? I saw you every week for quite a while. And it was so lovely for me to be able, now when she's asking loads of questions, to be able to say to her, this is what they're like. Oh look, here's a picture that we've got in a book of me and them together, like, well, I met them and I know them, and it's really lovely. And it was, you know, lovely for me to be able just to get to know them a little bit, and to get to know who they were. And I see them in her all the time, and for me that's really lovely. Yeah, that's a real privilege and an honour to do that. Yeah, if you have any more questions about that, I'll do another blog about adoption and stuff again at some point. But yes, I would say go for it. Go for the foster to adopt. Even if you have birth children, it's a really good and natural way to do it. Thanks for watching if you've made it this far, and see you soon. Bye.